Okay, it looks like we're live, and I'm just going to test to see that we are. Whilst I do that, if you're watching on the post, just give that thumbs up already, helps out. But I'm going to check to confirm that we are live. It looks like we are, so we're just going to go in with the old yes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rugby Muscle podcast or YouTube channel, however you're watching. It's great to have you here. Today, obviously, we are doing our July live Q&A. We have a few questions that we're going to run through that have already been asked on the community tab or on the Facebook group. So my goal here is to go through those. If you are watching on the live right now, any questions that are asked on the live will be answered as well. If you ask on this live Q&A in the comments, it will be rolled onto August's live Q&A, or if you have any other questions that want to be asked, we do also do 1 to 2 monthly live Q&As as part of the Rugby Muscle Academy, all of which you can find out more in the links in the description below, as long as you're watching past the fact, because if this is on the live stream, there won't be links in the description below. It will just be, I think it'll be a blank page waiting for comments. So get those in, otherwise we will just get started, I guess. Before I do, again, thumbs up before we get started. Really does help out the channel. All the comments that go in the comment section below all add to the algorithm. They also add to the conversations that we have here and add to extra future videos that we will have planned. And as you can see, we're doing weekly now. We're getting quite deep in the content stuff. We've got lots of stuff to come into for pre-season, for speed work, for strength work. Lots of stuff in the pipeline for the Rugby Muscle YouTube channel, so you can support us by literally just giving a thumbs up and leaving any comments for the algorithm below. If you want to support financially, again, links for all the ways that you can work with us will be in the description below. If you're watching live, though, right now, they are not. But without further ado, let's get into the questions, shall we? So, Mike asks, leaned out so far this off-season from around 34 to 31% body fat, which is not bad going at all. Couldn't lift for medical reasons, but this week I can get back to hitting the gym. I still want to be at a caloric deficit in the hopes of Recomp. I'm still over 30% body fat and hoping that will allow me to still make gains while at a deficit. Logical or too hopeful? Right, there's lots of directions I can go with this. So first and foremost, I'm going to get my little nitpicks with this question out of the way. I think body fat percentage is never depending on which machine or method you use to measure body fat, it's all going to be inaccurate. It's also kind of like a pointless number, right? Like, who cares? Like, because someone's 5% body fat on the same machine who looks significantly leaner and performs significantly better could actually register as higher than someone else's body fat on whatever given machine. It just doesn't make sense to really over analyze body fat percentage. And I think, it's one of those things where I prefer real more concrete data, i.e. performance numbers, weight lifted on the bar, and number on the scale, right? So if you're losing weight and the number is still going up on the bar as you're going by, those are the signs that we're sort of looking for, right? Do we know that we're definitely losing fat? We can't really, it's hard to tell week to week to week. It's also hard to say for definite if we're gaining muscle, even though the numbers are going up week to week to week. But those are the things that we're looking for. So I wouldn't overly think about it. And really, right, whilst I couldn't say for definite, like if the numbers are going down consistently on the scale, yeah, you're losing fat, right? As long as you're doing everything right. And if the numbers are going up on the bar, I think you're going to be growing muscle. So those things are the most important things to understand about this. Also, number one, if you are so usually recomps are like frowned upon, and I will frown upon them. I will frown upon them for the most part, because I just think recomps are a person's way out of either dieting consistently and really aiming to lose fat, or really figuring out how to eat enough to fuel their performance, right? They sort of hold you back in both areas if you're aiming for a recomp. If you're really trying to gain muscle, I'd just make sure that you're eating enough to really gain muscle. If you really want to lose fat, I would eat little enough to really think that you're going to be losing fat. And I think that's what you are aiming to do. And I think the recomp is a good idea. And I think the recomp, as far as let's look at keep losing fat, but let's train and watch my performance increase keep happening, is I think that's fine. I think you can expect that. I think particularly the larger you are, the more of a chance you've got of still gaining your performance as the weeks go by, even though you are in a calorie deficit, because you've got just more available energy. You've got more fat storage, so your body is okay to keep using it. So number one, being at a higher body fat percentage, and I say higher, like anything above 20-ish is higher, right? Once you get below the 20s, I'd start to consider being lean and maybe looking at our other options, or just being a little bit more conscious of it. But if you're above 20% body fat, I think you can absolutely lose body fat and lose weight, because that's what we're looking for here, is we're losing weight, and still see an increase in our muscle strength and our muscle size. That would be fine. The only thing here is, actually, let me keep going, because the other thing is that you are also detrained, right? You haven't lifted weights for a while, and therefore that's the other reason. So if you're coming off from a layoff, if you're bigger, those are two of the biggest and the two biggest things that could indicate that this would be possible, right? If you would really have trained for 6 months really hard, and then you say, okay, I've been losing, and now I still want to see if I can keep pushing the numbers and losing body fat, that's when it becomes difficult, because then you're sort of scraping the barrel and you have to change the different methodologies that you're doing. But even then, if we're looking at different performance measurements and we're still periodizing properly, I don't think it's an issue. I think you can still lose body fat. You just have to be smart with the training. But yes, you can lose weight, and so you're looking for that number on the scale to go down, and you're looking to then literally week by week just keep adding more resistance to the bar. So I would look at it, it depends how you want to do it, what your big goal is, but I would look at just consistently trying to add weight to that bar, and even potentially like just raising the intensity so much that you end up dropping the overall volume. So you could do like a real good method I like to do is if you start yourself on like strength work with 8s and keep pushing for 8s, and as soon as you get, you can't get that 8 on the next week, then maybe you look to drop to using 5 reps, and then as soon as you hit a weight where you can't hit that 5 rep, just hit 3s, and keep moving forward. Just one way of progressing, but showing that you can still keep progressing, keep adding weight to the bar week to week. I like to do that. I think that would be a way to keep that weight going on the bar and still have you not overextend yourself in a deficit. But overall, I've sort of rambled there, and that the progression scheme has thrown me off. But yes, if you are trying to lose weight, right, you want to see your number go down. If you're trying to lose fat, you want to see that scale go down on a weekly average basis. That would still be fine. And you want to see your performance metrics keep going up. As that stops to happen, you want to look at, okay, is this still possible? And you'd answer that question by looking at your training, whether you've been doing it for 4 to 6 weeks and potentially just need a deload, whether you have potentially maxed out this category of fitness, i.e. if you're looking at just like your reps of 10 to 15 on one given movement. Is it time for a change of periodization and to keep that deficit coming along? Or is it time that you're just burnt out from this calorie deficit and time to take a break and then potentially look at kind of gaining muscle, but still just looking at all the different methods of performance that or performance training that you want to increase to keep you moving forward. So overall, I wouldn't overthink it. You could absolutely do so. I think this has been overstated how difficult this is by the bodybuilding community, because all they ever want to do is just gain as much muscle and lose fat, and that's it, right? So yeah, you can absolutely do that. And I think you should be encouraged to do that. And if you're struggling to do that, then like it's your training that's amiss, or dieting is poor. Like that should be like fucking easy, to be honest. Okay. It looks like a couple of people are joining us on the live. Thank you for the thumbs up. Any comments, any questions, let me know. But for now, we'll get into Hamilton's question. So, per a really interesting podcast about doing 15 minutes of something each day, such as skill work, working on something. If I were to do 15 minutes of jump rope, mix it up, slow, fast, etc. after my gym sessions, do you think that would be enough to really notice anything? And jump rope because we know it's great for you. I think that would make you really good at jump rope, right? It would make you potentially decent at jumping, but it would just make you really good at jump rope. It's 15 minutes is not good enough for like a conditioning thing. Like 15 minutes is just that's not the energy range you want to be looking at when you're looking at improving for rugby, right? Rugby is aerobic, fueled. So if you want to build out to get fitter at rugby, you want to build out a robust aerobic system. 15 minutes is probably like it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for your aerobic system to really turn on, to get those mechanisms of improvement going. So you're probably going to get 5 minutes of aerobic work, not really worth it. And I think jump rope is quite intense as well, so you end up working too hard and your heart rate will go too high. It could be good at like some sort of level of like ankle stiffness, like when you're pushing off, right? Which can be good for speed, but why not just do 15 minutes for speed work, right? It could be good for power, right? But then again, why not just do 15 minutes of power work? Jump rope is just, it's a good skill. Like if you're a CrossFitter, like that would be a good idea. If you sucked at double unders and you figured you want to do 15 minutes of double under practice or whatever every day, yeah, that would be a good way. But if you want to do it to get better at things that are rugby specific, I wouldn't recommend it. He goes on to say, per same podcast, how can I practice as a hooker my line out throws without having to throw the ball against a palm tree or running after them each time? Not as easy as passing from the ground into a tire. Any ideas? Yes, I've got a good idea for this. So firstly, right, use your fucking 15 minutes of jump rope and practice this. Number one, that would be a great idea. Number two is, well, you've got several ideas, but number two would be to use one of those half balls and throw it against the wall. That would be a great way to do this. In fact, I know hookers that do that exact thing. So set some targets up on the wall and just drill that throw movement. That would be great. If you don't have access to that, what you could also do is literally ask your team, hey, can I borrow one of these ball bags? I'll bring them to every training session. That could be my job, to look after the balls. But if you could just borrow like 6 balls, you can then throw there's a palm tree. That's like a humble brag that you live in somewhere that has palm trees. All the English people there are like, fuck, I wish I was around palm trees. I'd throw them at but if you've got 6, then you've got your target for all 6, and then you can retrieve all the 6 of them at the same time. But it's less like having to chase that ball around each time. The other option, and probably a very efficient option, is to lie down on your back, right? So rather than have the ball behind your back, in fact, this is quite a good method because a lot of hookers now, these days, they want to just that, right? Because if you're coming up against, and I know Hamilton, you play at a decent enough level, if you come up against decent enough second rows, they're going to jump on if you pull back behind your head, right? So if you go there and you go back, they're already jumping, they're already predicting where you're going to go, and they're going to make that line out a lot more difficult for you to win. If you start just here, like right here, that's enough to get that throw. So I'd lie down and I would just throw it vertically. It becomes difficult to give you feedback of how well that is going, but you'll get a good feel for it, and then target wise you can get target practice better. But that's a fantastic method. So lie on your back. It takes the feet out of it, but it really relies on your core to throw it up, and you would throw it literally vertical so that you could come back and catch it exactly where you left it. That would work quite well. But other than that, I'd still recommend more throwing at the wall. That would work really well. And using those 15 minutes would be a good way to do it. He has another question, but I'll come back to it because we've got some questions on the live feed. First, Arnie. Hello, Arnie. He says, is it true that I can do the basic strength workouts or do I need variety? Bit of both. So, like, no, I think you need. So overall, depends what your goal is, right? If you're someone that has no background in any of this strength and gym work, then yeah, you could do basic lifts for like a good 2 years, and you would continue to see that manifest in progression on the rugby pitch. Whether that's the most efficient way to get you there is a different question. Whether you need the most efficient way to get you there is another question. Whether trying to look for constant periodization is a good idea that might make you overthink it and then quit. That's another question that you've got to ask yourself. So some people like keeping it really simple because it keeps them consistent. That's kind of the reason I like to do, or I like to tell people to do our programming. Team Rugby Muscle is a fantastic way of doing this. Like you have 2 to 4 to 5 sessions a week, and you don't have to think about it. You just literally log into our app and you look at what's being done. And we've got a brand new Team Rugby Muscle launching at the beginning of August. So if you want to sign up for our free stuff, just look at rugby-muscle.com and you can sign up, or you can get early access through those links. That would be my suggestion. Obviously it's biased because that's what I do, but that's because I do it because I think it's the best way for you to do it. But you would need variety. Yes, you would, because if you're a rugby player, right, basic strength work, so we're looking at sets of 3 to 5, hold you back as far as we're not looking at like your power potential. So lots of different jumps. We're looking at extensive power, so jumps for like sets of 10 to 20, where you're really looking at like ligament and tendon stiffness, not ligament, but tendon stiffness, and that repeat power ability. You're also looking at you're not improving your speed when you're doing basic strength workouts to an extent, right? You're not doing any sprint work, which could have a profound effect on someone that needs to get faster, or that plays rugby that hasn't done that for a while. Like a lot of people that just work strength have a lot of speed potential there because they're strong, but because they've never worked on their speed, they're nowhere near as good as they could be. And as simple as like 6 to 12 weeks of working on speed has a profound effect on their performance because they've never done that before, but they've got all this stored potential because of their strength background. And then just in general, like as far as like not necessarily overuse, but if you just stick with a few different movements and all you do is those movements, like you'll get so skilled at them that you'll inhibit your potential to get better as far as like adding more intensity, right? So if you have a movement that you're really good at and you're working at your highest of potential, you're not going to make any sort of significant technical improvements to that lift to then allow you to lift more. Whereas like if you're doing a movement, like say you were doing front squats for 3 months or so, and you got really good at them and you got heavy that you're heavy enough that you're technically really good, and you saw improvements, you saw week to week. When you change to back squats, now because it's a slightly novel movement, you won't be as good because you're not as good at the skill, but you're still getting that stimulus where you're really pushing that weight. You fast forward 4 to 6 weeks 4 to 6 weeks further into the future, and you're lifting more weights, not necessarily because you've got significantly stronger. You haven't got 20 kilos stronger, but you've added 20 kilos to your lift, which adds 20 kilos to the intensity that you're working because you've gotten a little bit more skilled at that lift. So your efficiency in that movement works well. And also, to add to that, working different movements is going to teach you to get better at different movements, which is going to get you better when you're looking at the overall rugby performance, because you're in rugby you're not just squatting with one particular pattern. You're constantly being challenged to move in different ways, whether it be like rucking, different challenges in the scrum, whether you're looking at jackling, whether you're looking at tackling, like your body is moving in different ways. And just to train strength in a few different ways is not as efficient as it needs to be. Now, a lot of people who are doing nothing, like just focus on a couple basic strength workouts and do that for 3 months and then come back and then look at maybe advancing it. Hopefully that makes sense. Brendan asks, what's a good hypertrophy split for rugby? There is, that's not a question that I can answer. There is like that full body, because like that allows you to work. Like there's no I hate split questions because it's a question that doesn't have really any impact on the output, because you could do anything and make it work. It doesn't really matter. The only important thing about rugby is, as far as splits go, is if you're doing your rugby training days, it's not the best idea to do heavy legs the day before or the day after. If you're doing heavy legs, I would do those on your rugby training days, because then you can use all your recovery on the days that you're not doing that, right? So if you had rugby training on Tuesday, right, and then you did heavy legs on Monday because you don't want to do it on the same day as your rugby training, right? Now you're recovering on the Tuesday from that heavy leg session, and then you're doing high impact rugby, which means that you're digging yourself further into the ground, and then Wednesday, like, you're so far in that ground that you're not going to make optimal recovery from either of those two things. Whereas if you put those two things together, like, you can then have a lighter day on the Wednesday and recover from those. But there is no good hypertrophy split for rugby. There is just train to be a better rugby player and eat enough and get enough volume in so that you can then make muscle gains but also improve at rugby. I've done a whole playlist on how to get bigger for rugby, and I think split comes into it on maybe like video 3, where I talk about, again, full body. There's no reason to say that you should do anything other than full body, but you can do full body and just not train your back every single one of those full body sessions, right? Or you could do full, and then on another session you're not training pushing movements. On another session you give your legs a rest, right? Those things. That's hypertrophy splits do not dictate results whatsoever. You can make any split work. Although I will say that doing like the traditional bodybuilding split of chest and arms and back and legs, it's inefficient for rugby, and it's inefficient for gaining muscle. You should be doing, unless you're a top level bodybuilder who is causing so much damage throughout your sessions that you need a week to recover, you need to train to gain muscle, and you need to just get better. You should be training each body part like more than once a week. All right, let's go back to good old Hamilton questions. He says, lastly, I've noticed that you love to program front squats for us. He asks that because he's a member of Team Rubber Muscle, which I mentioned before. It's funny because I'm the only one in the gym who does them. This is Spain though. Any particular reason why you're such a big fan versus back squats? Would love to know why you favor them. I don't say they're necessarily better than back squats. There's lots of good things to like about front squats though for rugby players. Number one is that they are like slightly less they're slightly less technical than back squats, or they're slightly more difficult to fuck up than back squats. A back squat, and you'll see this a lot with people that do back squats, tend to either be really shallow or end up as like back squat good mornings, where your butt shoots up and then your back ends up being hunched over, and then you sort of good morning it up, and that's no one likes that, right? You can't do that second one with front squats because you'll just lose the bar forward, even if you're holding it like this, which I don't ever recommend. I always recommend doing it like the clean grip, which a lot of people can't do, which is fine, and then you just grab straps and hold it like that, or you'll do the zombie version. all of which are fine, but mean that you can't lean forward because you drop that bar when you come forward. So then that teaches you a real good squatting position if you hold the bar in a front squat position. And then also the depth issue. When you're doing a front squat, you'll be able to feel yourself not go deep, right? Because it'll end up being like a core movement if you go halfway on a front squat. It's very difficult to do. Whereas a back squat, a lot of people do that. Whereas front squat, you'll get a lot more of a knee bend, and therefore, like, that's why I really do like them. Also, when we're talking about rugby players, like, it puts a good emphasis on that core because you need to keep your core real tight, and it helps sort of that, like, core, what's the word? It helps the core, like, brace, which isn't the word I'm looking for, but it helps the core engage like you're trying to drive through a tackle or a ruck, any sort of contact situation. Front squats are magic for that. They're really, really good. The other thing I also like about them is that they're a lot more difficult to, like I said, technically fuck up, but also load up so heavy that you throw your back out or hurt yourself. You just can't use as much weight as you can do on a back squat, and therefore you're just slightly less, and this is when we're talking about team rugby muscle. These are people that are, you know, I've got programming for all different people where they're giving me minimal feedback. I'm not coaching them one-to-one. I can set them front squats and know that there's a much lower chance of them adding too much to the bar, that they just completely cripple themselves, than they would be with back squats. They're just less overall systemically fatiguing, and that's why they work out really well. So yeah, that's why front squats are magic, Hamilton. So thank you for that question. That might actually do us for the questions. Let me see. Just gone really quiet here for a second, eh? If you're watching on the live and you have any more questions, get them in. I'll wait a few seconds for them to see if they come in. I do have one here that I will answer in the meantime from Ali, who says, I think he says, in response to the hypertrophy and strength part of the new physical preparation pyramid, he says the hypertrophy and strength go hand in hand like beer and rugby. Regarding agility, is there anywhere specific you would include it? So on the rugby physical preparation pyramid, I don't have I don't have like agility in there, but I have footwork and I have speed and power, and those two things combined will add to how, you know, you Jesus, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Let's go back. On the physical preparation pyramid, we've got movement control. That's what I was thinking of. I don't have the physical preparation pyramid ahead of me. So we've got movement control, and then we've got speed and power output, and then we've got footwork in the middle. Those three things combined will cover agility really, really well. And the thing is with agility is that agility for rugby, right, when you're looking, whether you're talking about stepping or you're talking about getting around a tackle, or whether you're talking about keeping up with an opponent and making a tackle, they're all skill components of rugby, right? You're stepping, a big part of stepping your opposition when you're carrying the ball is not your ability to step. In fact, like that can be a part of it, but you'll see people get around people with really weak steps, but it's because it's a judgment. It's about manipulating the defender and then spotting the gaps to then make that to make that step work. It's a lot about a visual thing and a manipulating the defender thing of reading what the defender's given you, or the defense in general is giving you, versus actually the physical art of stepping and moving around. Once you've got your footwork down and planted in the right place, and you're fast enough, your speed, your agility is taken care of. Sorry for that little zone out sort of panic attack kind of. Don't know where I went there for a second. We have got questions on the live. So Brendan asks thoughts on the bro split. Yeah, I don't like it. Jesse Krill done a bro split. good for Jesse Krill. He's a good rugby player, but the bro split is not. It's like loads of people do it. Loads of people do everything inefficient. It doesn't mean that that's the optimal way to do it. No, if like much better way to get in, like especially doing a bro split for rugby, like it doesn't make sense. I think for rugby, you've got so many different things that you need to get good at. I just think that having a day where you just do arms or you just do shoulders or you just do back, it's not only inefficient, it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you not just do, like, rather than do a bro split, do a heavy day, do a power day, do a light day, and like mix it up that way, but still do it full body every day. And that way, each body part gets 3 separate stimuli, and is able to recover from said stimuli, and you're able to engage yourself and improve. And you're able to not hold yourself back by limiting yourself to just doing one body part per session. Doesn't make sense. Arnie asks, what keeps you doing the YouTube vids? People keep asking questions like bro splits, and I realize that there are lots of people to help. So that's why I do these videos, and there's lots more to still come. We're about to reach 5,000 subscribers on the channel, and like as I evolve, I want to help more and more and more people. So I do think we're the other thing with the YouTube is that, like, I went through phases over the years of doing these videos, of changing what I wanted from the channel and changing what I wanted from, like, not just Rugby Muscle, but like my own life in general. And there's been like larger periods since I started Rugby Muscle where I put it on the back burner, and now it's like the only thing I do. So YouTube is a great way of putting out content. It's a great way of answering questions and being specific. And it's a great way of helping people who are searching for stuff. Like Instagram, everything gets lost. Everyone wants their answer in 60 seconds. YouTube, people still want, like, I understand that what I do here is a smaller channel, and I'm okay with that because I'm not willing to sort of deceive people as to the results that they can get, and I know better, right? So a lot of the unsexy stuff works really well, and people that find that and they understand that, then they're the people that I'm able to help, and so that's fine. I don't want to reach people that have unrealistic expectations of what they can achieve through strength and conditioning to help them with a rugby player. Perfect example here is just like saying Jesse Krill done a bro split. Like, Jesse Krill is a phenomenal rugby player, right? He was like I think he played under 20s World Cup and then capped by the Springboks in the same year. That's not because he did a bro split. That's because he's got a lot of fucking talent, right? That's a level of talent that you're not going to pick up by copying anything that he's done. The only hope that you've got is doing the best that you can. And doing a bro split is not the best that you can do. All right? With that, I think we have run out of questions. We have run out of time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for asking those questions. If you have any more questions for me, I'm about to go get dinner. But you, if you're watching this in the future, can ask any questions in the comments below. If you have any responses to any of my points and you disagree with the bro split, love to hear from you. I'd love to debate you. I'd love to, I like to give feedback and I like to receive feedback. So any comments in the comments below are always appreciated. If you just want to leave a comment for the algorithm, that's also appreciated. Thumbs up, also appreciated. 5 stars on the podcast always go a long way. Really does help us out at Rugby Muscle, and it makes me feel good. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still like the recognition to see that I'm doing a good job. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I think I will see you in the next one.